Hi, I'm Will,
And I'm David, and we're the Swift Drag.
and we are in session at JackRabbit SoundShack.
Well, tell them we won't go. We won't go till justice holds. You tell them we won't go it alone. We won't go till justice holds. We'll take back everything and take back your liberty and take back everything you own. Take back what belongs. Well, Simon says, man your post. Well, Simon says, revenge your ghost. Well, let them know they're not alone. And pray for those who need it most. And blood is on your hands. Chaos reigning. Well, Simon says, stop the bloodshed. But Simon says, bring out your dead. And let them know they're not alone. And say it out loud from the hill. Chaos reigning. Well, take back everything and take back your mother's ring and take back everything you own. Take back what belongs. And blood is on your hands. And blood is on your hands.
Okay, welcome back. To our listeners, we've been on a little bit of a hiatus, mainly due to me going out of town for about a week or so to Denver. So we weren't able to get an act in here while I was out of town, and so we just kind of took a little bit of a break. So I hope you guys didn't miss us too much. Vance, how have things been here at the studio since I've been gone?
Things have been good. Nothing too exciting to report. I was kind of taking a break as well, and it was needed. I had a lot going on with work, so
Yeah. But we are happy to return here with the Swift Drag. How are you all doing today?
Doing pretty
Awesome.
good. Yeah, great.
Cool. Fantastic.
Thanks for being here. We really appreciate it.
We appreciate you guys having us.
Yeah, totally. Thanks for having us.
Well, to start off, I first want to talk about a little bit about how you two met and how you got started playing together.
Started off, I had just finished wrapping up sort of a 7-year stint with a previous band called the Will Evans Project, and I was working on some solo stuff. Started recording some demos and was looking for a drummer. Wasn't sure if anybody would be into joining a duo. You know, sort of a cliche sort of thing, but I had this idea that I wanted to sort of bring to life, and so I recorded some demos, put it out there, and actually put an ad on Craigslist of all places.
And I had just relocated to the Austin, Texas area and happened to look at that particular Craigslist ad, and the rest is history.
Where did you relocate from? Yeah.
I am originally from Muskogee, Oklahoma.
Ogie from Muskogee.
Okie from Muskogee, born and bred.
Okay. And what brought you down here?
My in-laws actually moved down. My father-in-law coaches football at Austin High, and they moved down the week before my wife and I met. Coming down and visiting Austin. Austin's just too cool. So everybody's from somewhere that's in Austin. So we decided to pick up and come down as well.
Right. And so how long have you been here?
We came down the end of July 2013.
Okay. And Will, are you from here? Have you...
I'm actually from Austin. I'm one of the rare Austinites.
Well, so am
you know
I.
what mean?
Very
Yeah.
cool.
Hey,
Long distance fist bump.
That's right.
Okay, well, right on. So, how getting things started? The Craigslist ad. How did you guys meet up? What was the conversation like?
It was. I think I literally got one email from. Maybe I received 2 or 3 emails from random people, and none of them panned out. And then finally, I got an email from David, and was basically we just met up for lunch one day and had some Chinese food and started talking. And
You said Chinese food.
Yeah,
Chinese
Chinese
food,
food, and talked, and we hit it off. And I just kind of was like, "Hey, you want to come back to my place?"
I said, sure. I'm a cheap date.
Pretty much that's how it went. We jammed a little bit, and we're like, "Yeah, let's keep going with this."
So you jammed the very first day
first
that you
day that we
met.
hung
How
out,
cool
right?
is
Yeah.
that?
Well, for me,
that's
it was
pretty nice.
important. It was kind of a weird situation. When I was in Oklahoma, I was doing, I was playing for a lot of singer-songwriters and kind of more of a hired gun. And that kind of burnt me out. And so I wanted something new. I wanted to be in a band with, rather than just, paycheck, being with some guys or a guy that, I had things in common with, and, we meshed well. So that was kind of very important to me before we even sat down and played music, just to see if it's a dude I even cared to hang out with. And so that's kind of how we decided, hey, let's just sit down and have some lunch and, see what kind of dude he is. You can see what kind of dude I am.
It's like a blind date. You know?
Yeah,
Right.
it's weird. I mean, it's Craigslist. You don't know what you're going to get. I mean, he could have been a no telling dude wearing a dress, and you don't know till you meet him.
Right. Yeah,
He might have taken you back and killed you.
Yeah, hey.
What was it about David that panned out as opposed to the other guys that had responded?
Well, one was the immediate sort of interest right off the bat, and
Okay.
I wasn't an axe murderer. That was the first
Well,
plus.
you could have been
Seemed
hiding
like-
it well.
Yes,
seemed like a cool dude.
Yes.
And we the first time that I played with him, I knew right away that he was a perfect fit for what I was doing, and it's really hard in Austin, as most musicians know, to find a drummer. Most drummers in Austin are super busy and playing with millions of people, and so to find
Right.
somebody that was into doing this and focusing on this was really important for me.
Right. And Dave, I know you had mentioned earlier today being here that you never really pictured yourself playing with a duo. What was it about Will's stuff when you met him that kind of got you to, I don't know, be open to the possibility?
He is a master of his craft. There's a lot going on for 2 guys. Everywhere we've been, people say, wow, you do not sound like 2 people, which is a great thing for a duo, obviously. To me, it can sound very garage band very easily. So, when I saw what he brought to the table, kind of same thing, he said, I just knew instantly. And just, hanging out at the Chinese food restaurant.
Right, it was pretty easy,
it was one of those things to where we just instantly had things in common. We were talking about it earlier, but I build custom drums. Will actually has a thing, he makes something called gypsy kicks out of suitcases. So it's
old
like
vintage suitcases.
yeah. So, I mean, he starts telling me that, and I'm like, dude, I build custom drums. And it just, have things in common. Just, again, neither one of us were axe murderers. So, again, that was a plus. But just having things in common and, a cool dude and just we hit it off.
Well, it sounds it was a perfect match. And
Yeah.
the thing that I really dig is you do make the custom drums. for the people that are listening, explain what you have made and that you're playing on, and then I want to talk a little bit about your rig, because your rig is super unique as well.
I'd also like to talk to you about, was it a gypsy kick or
Gypsy kick, yeah.
Okay, yeah, find out what that is. But
Right.
Dave, first you with the drums.
My current kit that I'm playing is I've got a 30-inch 1962 Ludwig bass drum.
It's big.
It's
It's
big.
like the size of a tractor tire.
It is a monster. I can't take it anywhere without having people asking me what's going on with it. But picked it up and kind of built a kit around it. So very large, brings a lot to the table. It's definitely got a presence, a very unique sound. But hand finished it. It's kind of my passion. I mean, that's my thing. I fell in love with it, and it's definitely unique and it's got a sound of all of its own.
Good choice in colors. It's blue sparkle. I mean,
right.
with red trim on the rim, which looks very rock and roll.
It definitely stands out, and it has like old tuning keys.
Yeah, they-
Right. Well, it's original 1962. I mean,
And tell
it's-
them about the snare drum.
The snare actually made out of a tom. It's a 13 by 11, but totally custom. It's gold sparkle. It's also got a unique sound. Being a 13-inch, it's a little higher pitched, but it's also very deep, being 11 inches deep. You guys thought it was a marching snare when you saw it. I get that a lot too, but no, it is just a custom-made snare, and again, it's kind of got a sound of its own.
But it's got like the wooden rings around the top and the
wooden
bottom.
hoops, tube lugs. That's kind of my thing. I love, it's a thicker ply shell, but most of the stuff I do is 4-ply maple, tube lugs. But I'm all about the wood hoops. You got a good cross stick that comes out of it, and it's definitely got kind of a warmer tone, if you will.
Yeah, that seemed to me, I've never really encountered those, but it seemed to me when we were playing it back and listening to it, it had a little bit less ring than a traditional snare. I don't know
Right.
if that's because it's wood instead of the steel, so the wood kind of absorbs a lot of that stuff and resonates a lot better.
Yeah, you're gonna run into that. Definitely, you get different tones out of even different styles of wood.
Right.
Your popular maple birch. They make babinga, all kinds of stuff. But maple is kind of the industry standard whenever you get into higher end stuff. But definitely you're gonna get a richer tone out of a wood snare than a metal snare.
And you got the black dot, vintage black dot head on the bass drum.
Oh yeah.
I recall there was one particular rehearsal that where David was like, because he likes to search for drums on Craigslist and then refinish them and then resell them. And I think he came in and was like, yeah, I'm thinking about selling this kick drum. I was like, dude, you can't sell that kick drum. We'd already played out with it like once or twice. I was like, dude, it's a thing. You can't get rid of it. It's like the thing. And actually, the very first gig that he played with it, it was actually a tom and not a kick drum.
Oh,
I was in the process of finishing at the time.
He was
Yeah.
still working on it.
Yeah.
He had this giant, looked like a sacred circus trampoline on the side of him, playing this thing as a tom. It was great.
It was actually kind of cool too. It was before I had finished it, so I had stripped it, and I think it was just bare wood at the time. And I ended up having to use guitar stands to sit it on to get it level to where I could play it. But it was an awesome show. That's probably I bet that was my favorite gig at 1-to-1 that we've done.
was pretty cool,
yeah.
So, but this new bass drum, Will, you were saying that for the EP you guys just recorded that y'all had suggested to you to use a different kick drum. But even though it sounded good, you just said it just didn't fit with what you guys had going on.
No, it had its place, man. And like I said, the kit sounded great. We have grown accustomed to this sound, we're kind of longing for it. But it's great to explore and to expand, try different things, and we did that. And so now we know we're here with you guys. And I suggested to Vance, I was like, man, we really want to use this kit, because it's got a sound. And he's like, totally, let's do it. So that it worked out good.
It does have this kind of big boom and this big presence that really, being a duo, just two people, it really helps fill in a lot of that empty
it pulls
space.
some extra space for sure. Yeah.
John Bonham would be proud.
Yes.
So the gypsy kick you were talking about, what is that?
I started collecting vintage suitcases a while back, and I think I ran across something online that was, I was like, I don't want to go buy a kick drum, and because I needed something in my house just to play around and record stuff with, and I was
Shaky Graves does that, right?
Right. And I'd seen people before, put a bass pedal on a suitcase and play it, and I was like, yeah, cool, and I was like, and so I started seeing these really awesome suitcases at vintage shops because I like to go run around and look for stuff, and I was like, man, I could totally put a kick drum pedal on there, and it's small enough to fit in the house, and I don't have to destroy the neighbors next door, and it's but it has some cool recording qualities. But anyway, I started making them, and I've sold them to, I would say, a good 12, 15 drummers in Austin, just, that they'd use them in acoustic gigs and stuff like that. Dale Watson's drummer uses one on there a lot, acoustic gigs and stuff like that. Yeah,
They definitely have their place. I mean, I think we did a radio show one time. I
cool
played
for
one there.
radio stuff.
Oh
like,
yeah,
real
yeah.
intimate. Just like strictly acoustic. Like that's all you're doing. It's
like
cool.
you said, you can mic it up and kind of get a unique tone out of it. But I mean, since we've met, I've got one and I've put in jingles on it and even a kick port in it.
You can customize them. Do whatever.
I can't leave anything alone when it comes to drums. So we've customized it.
So do you
always?
I mean, are you cutting out a hole and putting a head in there?
No, it's
Or is it just the
strictly the suitcase. All I do is attach sort of a metal plate to the bottom of it, a mount, for the kick drum pedal. I mean, it's pretty simple. Anybody could do it. It's
We
really
need
just
to talk.
Yeah, dude, it's
Vance
great.
and all of his toys around here.
It's fun, man.
We
I
need
would,
more
I would
stuff.
love to make you one.
You may end up with a custom one. All right, we'll talk after the show. But no, I got some stuff in mind. But no, it's cool.
Yeah,
awesome. So the first song you guys played for us, Simon Says. What? Tell us a little bit about that song. What was it written about?
It was written about 5 years ago, and it was in relation to the sort of. I'd like to say it's sort of political in a way. It was written around the Egypt sort of conflict. I don't know if you guys remember that. I can't remember the exact year that there was a giant sort of uprising of all the people in Egypt, sort of trying to take back their government or whatever is happening. I don't know if you guys recall that sort of thing. It was kind of a big deal, and it was really a big deal in social media because that was what their tool that they were using to spread the word that all this was happening. Anyway, it's loosely based around that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Sort of conflict with government and people.
Okay. Well, in that case, let's go ahead and move on to the next song. Do you guys want to introduce us to the next one, Rattling My Door?
Yeah. The next song is Rattling My Door. Hope you guys enjoy.
Woe is me, hanging tree. Wait and see if I breathe.
Welcome back. We're here in session at JackRabbit SoundShack with local duo rockers, the Swift Drag. And we were talking about David's drum setup, which is part of their very unique sound. And now I do want to talk more about Will's sound. He's got a very unique kind of setup, pedals, and he's running guitar and bass. And I mean, it's two people. And so you got two guys. You're trying to fill all this sound out. It's a big sound for two people, which I was a bit apprehensive. Honestly, I told David, I was like, I don't know. I really like Will. I met him at the bar, and he's in this band, and I think it would be cool because I think a duo would be different, from what we've had.
Right.
But I'm a little apprehensive because I'm not really a White Stripes fan. I think the Black Keys do it well, but you guys don't sound anything like either of those bands, in my opinion.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
And
Yeah, I mean,
I'm sure
those guys
people-
are great. But
That's the first people that I'm sure people will compare you to, is because
Absolutely.
that's the other guitar drums duos
guitar
out there.
drums duo. Yeah, that's your first go-to. And I can say that there's a definite inspiration from that, but I've been working on sort of trying to build this robust sound from using only guitar for I would say close to 10 years now. And actually, initially it was acoustic guitar. I was running acoustic guitar through a bass amp with like two guitar players and just a drummer. It was,
I like to refer to Will as a pedal wizard. There's a lot going on. Even,
I have an addiction.
Austin, there's musicians everywhere. You can throw a rock and hit somebody.
Right.
And, it's amazing how many people come up to us because I have guys come to me about the drums, but everyone comes up to Will and is like, "Oh, what pedal's that? What pedal's that? I heard this. What's going on?" So there's a lot of tech discussion that goes on at our shows as well.
Well, I want to talk more about your influences and what inspired you to come up with this unique sound. But first, I want to talk about the gear.
Sure. I don't want to give away all my secrets.
No,
but
don't tell it all.
It's a pretty basic setup. It's a split signal to a guitar amp, which is mostly effects and
Vocals,
and
effects,
vocal. Yeah, I do.
and guitar.
Yeah, vocal effects that run through basically simple delay and reverb, which I have control over. And then for the guitar, it's just some random effects, and then there's some organ stuff happening in there too, which is cool. But the idea is to sonically separate the sound as if it were a full band. So you've got the bass on one side. And then your guitar and effects kind of coming separately. So it's sort of an orchestration, if you will, of sound. It's
very cool.
Yeah,
it's unique.
Yeah, it works out really well. I know one of these songs coming up you guys are gonna hear an organ sound that is actually Will's guitar being played at the same time as everything else, but it really helps to fill everything out.
Right. Yeah, and there's a lot of I think I was mentioning to you earlier while we were recording is the chord structure plays a lot into the sound that's coming out. It's sort of like I said, like orchestrating what's the sounds that you're hearing and try to like paint this picture of something broader.
A lot of people think that we play to tracks, but it's all live. I mean, pretty much everything is live.
Tracks.
Have you thought about getting a second guitarist ever, or do you just like this?
Man, if there's only one person that I would bring in as a third member, and it's a possibility, but
I'm not saying you need it by any means. It's just
man, it would be over the top.
Curious.
Like in a good way though, like because if that ever happens, it'll be awesome.
Our two egos, we can't handle a third.
Especially if it's a Taurus, we need a third.
Not enough room on that stage.
I was hearing some percussion in there. I'm ready to join the band.
Hey, man.
Yeah.
I mean,
being a six-piece.
we're not closed-minded, so we're not closing it off to like, no, this is only that.
But I think that the duo part is part of the shtick and part of the thing.
It plays a factor for sure.
Yeah.
And it's not just a shtick. It's you guys are an awesome band. And, like I said, I was apprehensive about having the guitar and drums. And now I'm finding myself, as I'm recording you, being a fan and jamming out hard
awesome.
while we were tracking.
Thank you.
And excited and ready to start mixing this thing because it's an incredible sound. And I was worried about the whole effects on the vocals thing because I've worked with those kinds of things.
Oh yeah, no,
in
I've heard them go really bad.
It can be a nightmare.
Yeah.
I've heard it.
Well, because you don't have any control after
Right,
it's
exactly,
recorded. It's a
right,
done deal.
totally.
And as an audio engineer, you want to have complete control over
Right,
that.
I know. I've dealt with that. I mean, I've been working in a music venue for the last 15 years, so I've heard some really, really bad vocal effects, and I understand your apprehension by all means. It's totally a thing.
Well, you nailed it.
Yeah.
And see, a lot of that goes back to me too. Like I said, I thought I would never be in a duo because it can be garage bandy. But again, that initial meeting with Will, I saw what he brought to the table because he has spent a long time developing the sound, and he's got a great ear for that kind of stuff. He knows what he wants to hear, and we just kind of tweak it until we find that.
And how long have you guys been playing together?
Since I moved down here,
So 4 years now.
getting pretty close.
Maybe
Yeah,
a little over.
Really?
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
And just now, I know we'll get to it, but we're just now getting close to releasing an EP, so that's exciting.
Yeah, we will save that to the last second.
I thought that you guys were newer than that.
It seems new, I guess, because we don't play.
Well, I don't know why that you're not like have a huge fan base because, I mean, I'm really surprised. I thought you were a very new group, and that's why I'm not seeing you blowing up because I think something's going to happen. Keep doing what you're doing because I like the sound.
Well, see, the thing is, like, we show up and we just have fun wherever we go. And, you know, I love being in the studio, but there's definitely a feel that I think that we both have when we're on stage with a live crowd.
Yeah,
and
there's always that live energy that's just hard to capture.
Definitely. Right. And we have a lot of people point that out when we are out there because, I mean, they'll come up like, man, you guys just look like you're having a blast. And we are. I mean, I love to play music. Music is my therapy. You know, I show up and that's what keeps me sane. I'll play music till the day that I die. I just know it's in my blood. And that's just, you know.
And that's something we've spoken about on the show before too, is the energy that artists bring to the stage and with their audience as well. Like the audience can always tell. If you go to a show, even if it sounds okay sonically and the music sounds all right, if the band looks bored playing their own music, like why should the audience get involved? You know what I mean?
Right.
But there are a lot of venues that you go to, especially like around town, since there are so many venues. A lot of them just really don't sound very good.
Oh, yeah,
you know what I mean? But if the audience sees the artists actually getting into what they're doing and actually liking what they're doing, that will really pull the audience into what's going on. And so I think that's critical to that kind of performance.
So we were discussing we talked about your drums. We talked about some of your gear setup. I would like to talk a little bit about your influences and how you came about your sound and building this idea in your head of orchestrating all this stuff, this big sound with two guys.
I'm trying to think where it starts. I think I mentioned earlier the band that I was in originally was a 3-piece without a bass player, and it was more out of we just couldn't find a right bass player. I was like, what are we gonna do? You know, so I knew about, and this is probably the time people like White Stripes and Black Keys were sort of coming about. I was like, well, we can be a trio. We don't necessarily need a bass player. Yeah, if they can do it, we can do it. And you know, there's people that are like even before that, like Local H and stuff like that. Local H is probably one of the early rock duos that are, you know. But inspiration-wise, musically, those guys weren't really on my radar, you know, then. So, so I started, you know, thinking, I was like, what can we do? I was like, well, why can't I just run my guitar signal through a bass amp and make it do best I can, make it sound like a bass, you know, and cover this sonic area. And we started doing that a lot, and it worked out great as a trio. We did like a full like soundstage live recording that way, and it worked out really great. And so
what was the third member?
A guitar player.
So it was you, another guitar player, and a drummer.
And a drummer, right.
And then you were doing the bass thing.
Right. And, you know, so it was just figuring out how to cover that sonic area quarterly and song structure-wise, and adding and taking away things to create dynamics, you know, to build this sort of ebb and flow of music.
Gotcha. And so, Dave, when you joined up with Will, where was he as far as in the progression of the sound, as far, you know, with everything he's got going on? How far along had it gotten?
Oh, I mean, he was definitely, I mean, he knew what he was going for. I think in the early stages, our sound was a little bit darker than what it is now.
Sure.
I think just, you know, music is definitely inspired by what, you know, the songwriter, what you're going through, you know, but love, hate, heartbreak.
And I'm dark in general.
Yeah. Black-hearted. No, I mean, the early stuff, I would say, was a little more on the darker side now, you know, a little more upbeat and things of that nature. But, I mean, we're constantly evolving, as most bands are. Right. You know, it's just whatever you're feeling is what you're writing at the time. And, you know, things have changed. They've remained the same. I mean,
Yeah, I think, I've added some things here and there, but for the most part, it was pretty developed whenever David, you know, hopped on. You know, had a pretty good idea of what I wanted to accomplish, and, you know, and he added the perfect, you know, just brought it all together. So.
Gotcha. And after I apologize. After 4 years of playing together and kind of working so well together pretty immediately, how much collaboration goes on with songwriting now and with things like that?
Will's definitely the brains behind the operation. He'll come to me with something and be like, hey, I'm throwing this around, you know, what do you think? And so we'll just kind of hash it out. But it's
a pretty quick process, though.
It really is a fast process.
It's like,
yeah.
You know, like I got some ideas and like throw it out there in rehearsal, and we start playing. We're like, cool,
Yeah.
you know. It sort of
And technology
evolves.
is awesome. I mean,
Yeah.
we'll lay our phone down and record. I'll take it home, practice with it. He'll mess around with it too. You know, say, hey, you know, here I'm going to restructure this. But you know, both of us, I think, have pretty versatile backgrounds. I've played numerous styles. Started out playing country, did rock, did some gospel, you know, got into Latin for a little bit, did some big band. Actually met my wife doing like a Vegas style show with full production, you know, singers and dancers, full costume. So, I mean, we both have played a lot. And so he'll bring something to me and just kind of you pull your experience together and put something out there. I mean, he'll experiment with the time signature, and somebody that's not really paying attention won't even know that it might be in some crazy time signature, and I got to hash it out. You know, it just doesn't feel right. I'm very much, I can read music, but I'm a feel player. You know, if it feels right, it feels good. And, you know, I think that conveys in what you're doing. And so, you know, there's a lot of little odd things happening between the two of us that, you know, the average person may not pick up on, but for the music nuts out there, they're going to be like, hey, is that, you know, what time signature is that? And they, you know, they'll come up and talk to us after the show, stuff like that. But
It's great to me that the process is pretty simple for us, you know.
Right.
Of course, it helps that there's only two of us, but
Right.
but in general, like it doesn't take long for us to build a song and be like, cool, it's like that, you know, let's play it tomorrow.
So what is the process with that? Like, do you focus more on arrangement? Do you kind of come in with just a guitar lick or maybe
Some of the
Drum
songs
beat?
I definitely have started with just us, you know, with a guitar. I'll be like, hey, check out this thing, we play it, and then, you know, months down the road, I bring it back and we add to it or something like that. You know, it kind of slowly progresses.
do
But
you
there are
start-
some that I do bring in, like, hey man, I've finished this thing. Let's check it out. You know,
do you start with the instrumentals typically or lyrics?
me
Or does it
personally,
matter?
when I'm writing, you know, I do. I usually start with the music first. I do this thing. That I'm sure other people do this too as writers, but I call them ghost vocals,
Okay.
which are sort of like
Oh, like
non
placeholders?
Yeah, placeholders for
Okay.
melody. You know,
Right, right.
But a lot of times to me, they sound like words, and then sometimes you can fill in gaps with like, oh yeah, you know, because a lot of it's syllables, so you're like, okay, this many syllables, I need to find a word that fits in there, and,
Right.
you know, and sometimes I work completely off of that. Sometimes I have a story previously to tell. You know?
Gotcha. And we've had the metal band that we had in here. The vocalist said he did something similar with a lot of the lyrics. You know,
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people
placeholders,
do that.
syllables. Yeah. Mhm.
Right.
I think
Works out
it's kind of a rhythmic thing too. You know, like
For
you
sure.
know the direction you're wanting to go. You know the feel of what you're trying to lay down there. So whenever he can come to me and say, "Hey, you know, here's what I'm working with," as a drummer, being a rhythmic person, you know, that's kind of how we form the song and
Build
see,
it, yeah.
the vibe and the feel of where it's going. And generally, he's got a message in mind. Or, you know, again, music's all inspiration. What's going on at the time? So
Right.
he's inspired by something, and that's what spurred. You know.
Gotcha. Awesome. Well, with that, I'm going to go ahead and introduce us to the next song. This next song is called Shade of Blue by the Swift Drag here on In Session at JackRabbit SoundShack.
I'm ready when you guys are. What shade of blue will the sky burn today?
on my teeth, and blue waves getting shallow beneath. Well, I can't breathe on my own.
Welcome back. We are in session at JackRabbit SoundShack with the Swift Drag. I noticed you guys have been playing a lot at Blackheart, which is a club or bar down on Rainy Street,
Right.
which is a very popular sort of hip district.
Right.
Is there a reason you've been playing there? Is that a place that you like?
It's definitely one of our favorite places to play in Austin. The vibe's really cool. It's like an old house. It reminds us of playing a house party. You know, as people kind of pack in, and it's cool that they're probably one of the fewer venues in Austin that actually pay their musicians. So that's really
do
rare.
they?
Yeah.
That's nice
Yeah,
to know.
that's
And it's cool. On the other side, the flip side is that people come in and, you know, you pull people off the street that hear the music and stuff like that. It's really easy to grab new fans.
So it's
there, too.
free to get in and they pay you off the bar
totally.
sales or what?
Yeah, for the most part. I think it's bar sales, something like that.
But there's no cover ever.
There's no cover, right?
That's nice.
Yeah.
To be able to go in and see a band. Anybody can go in.
And it's a really fun room too. I mean, it's an intimate stage. You come in just for what we bring.
It works
it's
for a
lot of
two-piece
fun.
too, size-wise.
Yeah.
It's a good-sized room for us. Like, you know, as musicians, I'm sure you know Vance playing a really large room where people are not there and engaged is really, you know, sort of disheartening as a musician. You know, like, you know,
It's better to play a small packed club than a big empty room.
totally right. Anytime.
So do you have gigs coming up there? Or are you kind of, I know you've been doing a run there. Do you have anything coming up?
Not in. We're taking the month off because we do have our much exciting EP release coming up in July.
The release is July 24th.
July 14th.
July 14th.
Yeah, Friday, July 14th, and it's at the Mohawk, which is inside.
And it's a digital release.
Yep, digital release. All the digital platforms will be available also on our website too.
Which is?
theswiftdrag.com. Can't go wrong with that. Super easy.
Easy to remember.
Yeah.
And you guys don't really have a whole lot of music online just yet, right? 'Cause the only thing I came across
We're
was
getting
two
there,
older
man.
songs.
We're getting there.
So how soon do you think after the EP release, the EP will be up on?
Oh, it'll be up the day of.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll be there. You can purchase it from the website, or it'll be on iTunes. It'll be on Spotify. It'll be all major digital platforms. Bandcamp.
Okay.
All related to the Swift Drag.
Gotcha.
Yep.
When y'all were recording, when we were recording the session earlier, y'all said that there was one song that y'all have only played live twice. So
Right.
far. Which one was that?
It's called Alive.
Alive. So it's going to be the last song. So we will actually talk about that during the last segment. You mentioned earlier while we were talking that y'all don't play a whole lot. Maybe that's why you don't have as big of a following as Vance and I think you should. How often do y'all play?
I would say average once a month, but maybe sometimes a little bit less than that.
Why so few times?
Maybe lifestyle, but also for me personally, because I do most of the booking, it's difficult, man.
Okay.
It's really difficult to book gigs sometimes. Like
There's a lot of musicians in Austin. I don't know if you're aware of this or not. So,
Admittedly, I'm not the squeaky wheel, and people that book a lot of gigs and play a lot of gigs are that way and are good at like, tapping on the shoulder all the time. Hey, it's me again. Hey, it's me again.
Well, plus you just don't want to play too many times in the same town.
And stuff.
Right.
I've gone through that process where you're just playing all the time.
They're like,
in
well,
the same
why do we
town.
need to come see them? They play next week.
Right. And having gone through that process, it's that's not ideal for us.
Right. And, again, Will being from here, I mean, he's been around and, him being in the live music industry, the bar industry. I mean, he's seen a lot. And I will say I'll give him props because, he does do a lot of the booking or all the booking. And, but the places that we play are awesome. Like we do a lot of the iconic Austin places,
You played 1-to-1 because you work there.
I actually also work at 1-to-1. Yeah.
That's how I met you, in fact.
That's how we met. Yep.
For the Timbero Still Norte
That's right.
show, and that we've had them on the show, and they're great.
Every Sunday.
And I was by myself, and Will was nice enough to chat with me, and he was like, "Hey, I'm in a band," and I'm like, "Well, I run a podcast." And the rest is kind of history.
You want to go have some Chinese food? But no, we play a lot of places. I mean, here recently, what we've done, like Cheer Up Charlie's, Carousel Lounge. I mean,
Have you played at Mohawk?
No, that's just this one coming up. Yeah, for y'all, first time actually.
I've been wanting to play there actually since I've been down here. So it's kind of a
killer venue. So we're excited to finally check that one off the list because it's a great place.
You do have that booked?
Yeah, it's July 14th too.
Okay,
that's
so
right.
if you're listening
That's
out
the EP.
there, you want to be there. The EP release
July 14th.
and the name of the EP.
We Won't Need That.
I love that. That's great.
And how many songs is on the EP?
5. Total of 5
5 songs on the EP.
Right.
Okay, cool. Do you consider yourself more introverted?
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
Right.
I was going to ask because just you two sitting here, the dynamic, Dave seems to be a little more outgoing and, I don't know, vibrant, for lack of a better word. You seem to be a little more, inward. I'm also just thinking about, because I do think that you guys are really good, and the booking, because we've had, other artists on here who play multiple times a week, and that's just because they're just that type of person.
Sure, right.
They'll go out and they'll play anywhere at any time just to continue going. So yeah, I'm just kind of curious about that.
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
And I mean, I've played music since I was in 7th grade, and it's easy. I mean, not necessarily get burnt out, but you can just run yourself ragged doing that.
Right, for sure.
And not only can it hurt your fan base, but at the same time, just I'm a drummer. I haul around a lot of stuff, and I know you know how that goes too. So I mean, out there playing 3 nights a week, I've been there, but it's
Plus,
not.
in Austin, you got to make a living.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah.
But that's why I think it takes like a certain personality to be able to play 2-3 times.
Oh, you're
a week,
right.
you know
Yeah,
what I
you're
mean?
exactly right.
'cause,
Sure.
I mean, I consider myself a little more introverted as well. Like I like going out, hanging out with friends and all that, but that does drain me. Whereas more extroverted folks, that kind of gives them a little bit more energy.
Totally.
It sucks it out of me, just totally.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that I've always worked on as being, I say, the front person on stage singing and talking. It's something that I constantly work on. I try to get better at being the more vocal and telling stories and all that stuff. I've got a long way to go. That's
Do you get nervous before you jump up on stage? I mean, I guess everyone gets nervous to a degree for sure. But
I think depending on the show, like the crowd and the vibe, everything kind of plays a factor for sure.
Which is kind of ironic because you're a bartender. And the bartender usually is the guy that has to talk to everybody because, who's the lonely guy sitting at the bar drowning his sorrows, You got to be able to tell some jokes and say, hey, what's going on,
I guess, I think the difference is that for me personally as a musician, typically the songs that I'm playing all have some sort of personal, emotional connection to. So all of a sudden there's this like sort of, you lose the shield all of a sudden. So, it's just a natural sort of thing to be introverted when you're like, I'm about to like tell you all these things that it came out of my brain.
Sure.
It's so strange.
And that was kind of my next question is what led you into wanting to perform, being relatively introverted?
Maybe the rush from being on stage. And, as growing up, I was always, I would say, kind of on stage. I played sports pretty much my entire life. And
what'd you play?
I was in baseball for a long time, all the way through my second year of college.
Okay, right on.
So from 3.5 years old all the way through college. So, I enjoyed that rush of being on stage and performing and doing well and all that stuff. And plus, music. And for me, music actually came way later. It wasn't until I quit baseball that I really got into
What position did you play?
You wouldn't know by looking at me, but I was a catcher.
Catcher.
Right,
Interesting.
yeah. Probably one of the smallest catchers out there.
A lot of times the catcher's the bigger guy.
Yeah.
Bigger, yeah.
The
Bigger.
pitcher's the tall, thin guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just curious.
Yeah.
I was thinking maybe a pitcher.
I actually really liked pitching, but
So how long since you said it wasn't until after, you'd been doing all that you got into music? How long have you been playing, writing, and all that?
I started playing guitar when I was 13, somewhere around that time. I think I picked it up and got really frustrated with it and put it back down for a while, and then, kind of picked it up here and there throughout the years. But I didn't really get serious about playing the guitar until my sophomore year of college, which is when I quit baseball and I had all this amazing extra time on my hands. It wasn't 24/7. That's all I was doing.
Right.
So I got more interested in that. And then I met some friends that I worked with. Actually, I think what happened was I quit baseball and I was playing at St. Edward's University in Austin and quit baseball and I was like, all right, I got this time. I can go get a job and go to school. So I went and got a job and had some friends and met some friends in a band, and the rest is sort of progressed that way. And started playing bass in a band and realized that I was like, I feel like I can write songs too. I can, so I started delving into that at that point. So early college years.
Nice.
Yeah.
And Dave, what about you? How long have you been playing? You kind of alluded to.
Yeah,
big
I got to
band
give
stuff.
props to my parents. Between the summer of my 7th grade year, they bought me my first drum set. And my dad's dad was a phenomenal pedal steel guitar player. He played with some big names back in the 70s. And but I had some friends that were musicians, kind of same thing with Will. And so I had started asking for it, and it takes a special parent to buy their kid a drum set. And so definitely I give them props for listening to my early years. I'm sure it was amazing. A lot of noise.
At least it wasn't a trumpet.
And my neighbors. Don't buy no tubas or trumpets. No, I definitely give them props, and it took me some cool places. I lucked out. My friends that were into music, their parents were actually musicians, and they had a show they'd been doing for years. They had traveled around, and they really pushed them at an early age. So within a year, I was on stages with them and played with them all through high school until I went off to college. And they're still playing. They're actually in Nashville now doing a pretty big scene. But again, I delved off and got into different styles, and I think studying different styles of music and playing different styles of music, me being from Oklahoma, you wouldn't think about it, but there's a really cool blues scene in Renniesville, Oklahoma, which is about 20 minutes from Muskogee, where I'm from. It's actually about 2 minutes from where Carrie Underwood's from. She's from Chakotah, Oklahoma. And so cool blues scene right there, and kind of got hooked up there a little bit later in life, but definitely lucked out having some friends. We were doing, talent shows every weekend, doing state fairs, balloon festivals. I mean, anywhere that we could play, we were on a stage. And, the more you do something, the better you get at it. And I think those early years, just hashing it out and, it brings you a long way in your musical career.
Right. And so from day one for you, it's been drums.
Yeah. I don't touch anything else. I don't sing.
Right.
Everyone's like, oh, you're a duo. You must sing. You don't want me to sing.
I'm going to get him singing soon.
Yeah. All right. Well, I know that a lot of other artists we've had in here, a lot of times they'll start off with one thing and then end up doing something else. And even Vance, I think he's mentioned before on the show, he started with piano and hated it, right?
Yeah.
That's correct.
And then, you found drums and your life was changed forever.
So it's a matter of finding what works best for you, I think. I mean, a lot of people start on different instruments and branch out.
Yeah, I didn't ever play bass until I met my friends, and they were like, "Hey, you play guitar? You can play bass too."
We need
And I was
a bass
like,
player.
"Oh, wait,
Yeah.
bass? What?" Like, yeah, sure.
That's usually how it starts.
That's
Yeah.
usually-
Hey, we need a drummer. We need a bass player.
And the
Yeah.
irony, you don't have a bass player.
Exactly.
Exactly. Right.
He was scorned those early years. He's like, we don't need that.
I get right.
We don't need a bass player.
I mean, I can't deny that playing bass early on probably played a factor into the the development of this sound that we have now too.
I would definitely concur.
Right.
Okay. All right. Well, David, do you want to lead us into the next song, Jump Ship?
Sure. We are the Swift Drag, and this is our next tune, Jump Ship.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Turn off my phone. I disappear from this earth. I will comatose from this life of pills. Well, I read in the news that I'm washed up still. Washed up still. Racing could swim, I can't count on him. No one to help watch me sink like a brick, and I might as well bid farewell. What if I jump ship, disappear from this earth? I will comatose from this life of pills. Well, I read in the news that I'm washed up still. Washed up still.
All right, guys, that was Jump Ship from the Swift Drag here on In Session at JackRabbit SoundShack. So this is our last segment for this episode. I wanted to talk to you guys about the song that we're going to close things out with called Alive. That is a newer song. How new is it?
3 weeks.
Yeah, within the last 2 weeks, we put it
Maybe.
on stage.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was very, very new. We were talking about
new.
Blackheart earlier. We did a couple weeks back to back over there.
Yeah,
And,
it debuted both of those last two shows.
How was it received?
well.
Actually, really
yeah.
well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, because I like that one a lot. Vance, I think he's mentioned that it was one of his favorites.
Yes.
From what we recorded.
Something about it reminded me a little bit like it might have had a Foo Fighters influence or
Yeah, okay.
something driving like that. I
Sure.
really like the delay on your voice. Again, just to reiterate, a lot of times I don't like it when vocalists control their own effects, but the way you do it is very tasteful and it works well for the song. And I'm glad that it's in there. And we decided to go ahead and do that because we
Right.
talked about doing it
Mhm.
after the fact.
Sure.
But yeah, we were talking about your influence and stuff. This song to me sounds a little different than some of the others.
It is, yeah, it is sort of a different. I don't really know where it came from, honestly.
It's a little more pop sounding.
It's a little
to
more
me.
pop
Yeah,
sounding for sure, right? It's definitely structured more, pretty more radio friendly in that vein for sure.
And this is the one that kind of has the organ pedal kind of utilized toward the end.
There's a awesome organ pedal that Electro Harmonics puts out that I'm utilizing.
I was going to ask you earlier, how many effects pedals do you actually have? Vocal.
47.
Times two. No, there's probably like with the vocal and guitar, there's somewhere around 15, I think. Maybe,
Okay,
something like
gotcha.
that, yeah.
And you haul all of those with
I
you
do.
up on
It's
stage?
And vintage suitcases.
in vintage suitcases actually. Yep.
Custom made pedal boards.
Right. They are. Yeah. One of them's custom made to fit in a old vintage. I don't even know what is. It's like fiberglass suitcase. Actually, I
Oh,
think is
yeah,
what it
yeah.
is. Yeah.
So can
Big
you take
brown
your
one.
pedals out and then flip the thing around and then use it as a kick pedal?
That's a thing. Wait, hold on. Maybe
Brainstorm.
Right? Yeah.
You got a drummer, you don't need that.
Have you ever thought about taking one of these suitcases and building like the pedal board into it? That way you just like open it up and lay it out.
Man,
and it's there?
yeah. There's all kinds of things out there. I mean, I really would like to redo my pedal board in more of a linear fashion. Right now, it's just like I feel like it's like a rat's nest. But
You guys need roadies bad. I mean,
bad. Yeah.
If anybody out there's listening and wants to be a roadie for an awesome band, hit these guys up.
That's right.
They need a guitar tech and a drum tech.
Yes, that would be amazing.
So what is the song Alive about?
Initially when I started writing it, it's sort of one of those things where you just sort of write words kind of off the top of your head, and it's not till you finish it that it sort of reveals itself, I guess.
Okay, sure.
And I'll be honest, there were probably like 4 or 5 versions of it.
Okay.
Different lyrics, and finally came to a set of lyrics that I liked, and it sort of developed itself as this adds a completely different perspective of the song after you listen to it, and for you guys for sure. It's sort of almost from like a homeless person's perspective.
Okay,
Interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
Not
And
something that a lot of people write about. Maybe, I don't know.
not that I've
Yeah,
ever
but
heard.
like I said, I didn't sit down and be like, I'm going to write this song like about
a homeless person.
about
Go and do
homeless
some research
population.
and become homeless for a while.
Right. But and it,
Immersion.
It sort of became a perspective, and maybe it's not necessarily homeless. It could be anything really. You could apply it to lots of things.
Sure,
but,
I mean,
right, yeah.
the best
That was
songs
the
are
first,
open to interpretation.
right? Yeah, and that all my stuff I hope is open to the interpretation.
Well, I would like to go into a little more. And I mean, you said the song is about from maybe a homeless person's perspective. Could you maybe elaborate on maybe lyrically what it says in the song for people that are listening? They're going to hear this song.
Right.
so.
The first. I'll start with the first line, which is getting weary, constantly oversteering life. So maybe the person wasn't homeless to begin with, and there were things that led to this sort of thing. I wish I could think of some other perspective besides the homeless, because I know there is. I just
That's okay. I mean, we can run with that since we already have it established.
Totally right.
Yeah.
And then I think the refrain is, how do we survive? And so that's applicable to anyone, everyone. So.
And how long did it take you to write this?
This is one of the ones that came pretty quick, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say, like, we rehearsed some lines, and I had some, what I called earlier, some ghost vocals that, that didn't really say anything. It was just sort of melody. I was like, man, that's really cool. I was like, so maybe a week.
Wow.
Max, yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure from the time he was like, hey, I'm picking this around, and, we literally ran through it one practice. By the end of it, we're like, we like where this is going.
Yeah.
And it's funny you talk about that. Let me just be on record saying I had nothing to do with the lyrics of the song. Okay. But a previous band that I was in, we actually had another song that was loosely based on the life of a homeless person. Which I've actually, I don't think I've ever actually even told Will this, but and it was one of our better songs. We actually got contacted by the show Weeds when they were on to see about using a clip of it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right on.
That's cool.
So that must have been a little while back that you were with that band.
Yeah, I was still in Oklahoma at the time, so that was probably 2006, 2007.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have any stuff online that the listeners may be able to listen to and kind of get a little bit of history?
That band was Fake Like Me was the name of it, and that's the one tattooed on my chest.
Okay.
But there's probably some stuff still on iTunes on there. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, definitely the singer of that band, great vocalist, great acoustic picker, a little bit more of a pop acoustic band.
Okay.
But he had a really unique voice and unique picking style, and we had some good times, definitely.
I would say that, like, in the writing process, when you come across something that excites you, it sort of spurs you on to, like, oh yeah, let's get this done because that's really cool.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that speeds up the process for sure.
So do you think that your songs come from your own experiences, or like for this one, or is this a thought that you had about putting yourself out there into someone else's shoes?
Right. It developed into that. Sure. Once the lyrics sort of, it was like a puzzle in front of me, and I had all these kind of lyrics, and I was like, well, there's sort of this underlying theme, and I was like, well, what if I brought it in this direction, off to left to right, and brought this perspective in, and it sort of made sense at that point.
I'm sure you do have songs that, most songwriters have songs that it's about their own experiences in life.
Right, totally. Yeah. Put yourself in any sort of shoes and have this sort of how do we survive mantra.
Right.
But we've had songwriters on here that have said, my songs are not really about anything.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
whatever's in my head at the time.
Dude,
it's all open for
that's
interpretation.
That's totally a thing,
so
yeah.
figure it out.
Right.
It's a journey.
That's
I don't know what it means. Maybe you can tell me.
Exactly.
yeah. No, I mean, I like writing that way too. Sometimes it's literally just I don't do a lot of stream of consciousness sort of writing necessarily, though. Sometimes that's a good exercise. Just when you're like having a hard time writing in general, is just write whatever is on top of your head. But,
Right.
like I said earlier, a lot of my writing stems from a melody first.
Okay. Yeah. It always fascinates me, like good musicians and good songwriters like that. Like Adam Rogers, one of the songs that he played for us on the show is called A Song for Caroline. He told us that he wrote it on stage, just imprumtu, for a girl who walked into
That's
the bar.
really great, yeah.
And
Wow.
it's one that he's continued to play, and it was one of my favorite songs from that set. And it's just, I try to write songs myself, but it takes me a long time to where I'm happy with them, and just because half the time I don't know what I'm going to write about. I'll start with the melody,
Right.
and then just I'll ditch the melody, and it'll end up something completely different months later.
So it happens to all writers for sure.
Yeah.
It's amazing to me too, because I mean, our stuff will transform. I mean, we've got a couple stuff that started out early in the project, and
I'm always like changing
Oh.
things. I'm like, oh yeah, we've been playing this song this way for 3 years. Hey, I got this idea. Let's change it.
Yeah.
Right. And that's always nice to do live, especially if you've recorded it already,
right.
because then
remix.
Yeah, right. An audience will know what to expect, and they go and see you, and then you do something a little bit
something
different. It just keeps
different,
it
right.
interesting
Sure,
for them, which
yeah,
is
totally.
great.
And it keeps it interesting for you. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, you got to change it up to keep it interesting.
Yeah. Songs get sort of boring after a while. And
Yeah. Be motivated to
Right.
play it.
Well,
yeah.
and it's fun too, since obviously there are only two of us on a live stage. Will can decide to take off on something, and all I got to do is follow him. You know,
Right.
Nobody to follow me.
Yeah,
except for
exactly.
him.
Yeah. So, as long as we take off together, there's not a train wreck, So, I
Right.
mean, it is really fun. I mean,
Yeah.
we do kind of, obviously, we've got the songs we put out and they've got that outline, but
We gloss
I mean,
over a lot of mistakes that
yeah.
way.
But I mean, we can take off on a jam session if we want to, and it's just a fun vibe between us.
What are your thoughts on guitar solos? Because given the sort of nature of how you're doing this project, because you are filling the bass void,
Right.
it's probably pretty difficult to take a lead and still keep that fullness
Right.
of the
And
sound.
and I'm
You're not a lead
by nature
guy.
I'm not a lead guy. I mean, I love melodic lead playing. I'm not really into the kind of stuff. Like, I mean, there's some great players out there that do that, and I respect it by all means. But yeah, it's just not stylistically something that I'm into.
Well, it works.
Our lead runs are usually pretty consistent. I mean, like he said, he definitely he'll write a melody, and we rarely take off on a 4-minute, 5-minute guitar solo.
No,
it's just not going to happen.
It's more riff based than it is
Right.
lead.
Yeah. Most of
Right.
it's all. Yeah. It's all a lot of riffs, and my guitar style is sort of, when you're with the duo, you got to create some movement, right? You can't just
Yeah.
get up there and play a guitar and play some chords and be like, yeah, this is cool, And so like
Right.
creating a melody, typically for me in the higher range, playing melodies over a droning bass line is a lot of what I do too. Yeah.
Okay.
An emotional roller coaster, if you will.
Yes.
And I did see a loop station in your setup, but you didn't use that today, really.
No, I don't. I don't. A lot of people say, "Oh, do you do loops?" Because you're only a duo, y'all run loops. And actually, the only loop that I have is really a time gap filler.
It's like an intro. Yeah, it's an intro into something else.
It's an intro into a song, and I have it's a song that's actually going to be on our EP called Red Sun, and it's because I have to tune my guitar million ways, and it takes a little bit of time. So I have this filler that I sing over this sort of loop, and he plays to it, and it sort of blends into the song. So it's pretty cool.
We were talking earlier about percussion and things like that, and it's funny to people because I'd use brushes, mallets, shakers, and stuff like that. But we are a rock band, So that particular loop that he's talking about, I'm doing some brush work and some kind of things that people are like after the show, dude, were those brushes? I'm like, yeah. They're like, I've never seen me play with brushes in a bar in Austin. Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, that people haven't seen that in Austin.
Yeah.
You just mentioned that the song is going to be on your EP called Red Sun. Mm-hmm. Is that an EP that you guys are already working on before?
Oh,
this
I
other one?
apologize. The song is called Red Sun.
Right,
right. Yeah, sorry.
Gotcha.
I misspoke.
So it's coming
yeah.
up on the. No.
Yeah, it
you
will
probably
be-
said it right. I just misunderstood.
Yeah, it will be on the EP is actually called We Won't Need That, and
Right.
it features 5 songs. One of the first song on the EP is called Red Sun.
And when is the release show again?
We're doing July 14th at the Mohawk down on Red River. We're playing with a good friend of ours, Jeremy Nail, who's opening the show. We're second on at 10 p.m. And then some great friends of ours, the Sideshow Tragedy, which are also another duo from Austin who are in Europe right now touring. One of our favorite bands. They're playing after us. And then another band called Torino Black.
Okay. And do you have any shows between now and then?
No, we're taking off so we can build that, that motivation and get everybody possibly we can get to that one spot. Yeah.
Wonderful. And currently, where can our listeners find you guys online or wherever?
First point would be theswiftdrag.com. That's our website. And then we also have a Facebook, as everyone does, Facebook / The Swift Drag. Instagram is probably more fun for most people, and we like Instagram. So we're The Swift Drag on Instagram as well.
Okay.
And I had one more question. Out of these songs, are some of these on the EP, I'm guessing?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How many of these songs are going to actually be on the EP? So the listeners...
think 4 of them, right?
Well,
yeah,
possibly.
4 of those songs that we played
So there
today.
you go.
Okay.
If you like what you heard, go to their website and download this.
Right, totally.
New
Yeah,
EP.
you can download it from the website initially. There will also be on July 14th. It will be released everywhere, all the digital platforms, iTunes, Spotify, Bandcamp, pretty much anywhere you can download your music from today. It'll be there.
And go see the Swift Drag. These guys rock live. You want to see this.
Yeah, nice. All right. And Vance, where can our listeners find us if they stumbled onto us by accident or happen to be listening on somebody else's device?
www.insessionjrss.com.
Okay. You guys can also find us on Facebook. We are on YouTube, although I have to say I have been slacking on the YouTube front. I've got quite a few videos I've got to get uploaded and caught up on. But yes, you can find us on the website. You can find us on YouTube. We've got an Instagram. We've got some other social media, though we don't keep up on that as well as we would like. Facebook, I think, is where we kind of keep up the most. So if anybody out there is listening and they're a social media wizard, want to help us out for free, let us know.
And we're working on iTunes.
Yes, we are working on iTunes. That's going to be coming up soon. So
Sweet.
Those of y'all who listen to podcasts through iTunes, we will be up on there as soon as we can be. That, I think, is it for the show. I'm going to go ahead and lead us out into the last song. Is there anything else anybody would like to say?
No, man, we just want to thank you guys for having us. We really appreciate it, man.
Absolutely. And let me just say to all the musicians out there, if you're coming through or if you're in Austin, these guys here at JackRabbit are great. Awesome studio, great guys, great vibe. If you're looking for somewhere to record, definitely I would highly recommend coming to check them out.
Agreed.
Awesome.
Thanks for the plug. Thank you guys for being here.
Yeah. And I'd like to say thanks for being here, too. You guys have been super cool. I can actually see myself getting a beer with you guys, so I might do that at some point in time.
Prove it.
Awesome.
Prove it.
Okay. All right. Well, guys, thanks again for listening. This has been episode number 12 with the Swift Drag. We are going to finish the show out with their newer song. It's only about 3 weeks old, called Alive, here on In Session at JackRabbit SoundShack. We will see you guys next time.
Okay, we're rolling. Cool. The most amazing tonal bliss. Yeah, right, I know. We rolling?
Getting weary, constant oversteering life. I keep on dreaming, white wings are fleeing.